behalf of the Greater Moncton Museum Society, I'm sure you will appreciate this gift. And you'll have to open it and share it with everybody here too, okay?
Presented to Geoff Bell by the Moncton Museum Society, June 3rd, 2010.
On the other side?
On the other side, a bell for a bell.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor, Geoff Bell. My remarks will be brief. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that. I want to thank Lourdes and the Moncton Museum Society. A very kind gesture that you have done. I really appreciate it. And to Dennis, Mike, and Eric, thank you very much for all you've done to make this evening a really nice evening for me. Dennis, he was a member of Parliament, as you probably know. And Dennis, I have one of your little notes here that I found in my archives today. And it says on it, "Thought you might be interested in this, Dennis." He obviously sent me something from Parliament that it had that I'd be interested in, and that little note was attached to it. And Mac and Doug and Brenda and Anne-Marie, a special thanks to you. I didn't know you people were going to be up here. That's very nice, and thank you for your remarks. Sandra Wallace, where are you, Sandy?
I'm taking pictures of you.
Oh, yes, you are. Sandy was chair of this event, and Sandy's a teacher of mine in grade 5, wasn't it, at Forest Glen?
67, 68.
67, 68. And she's been all over the country since that. Anyway, it's nice, Sandra, thank you. And a special thank you to all you people in this room. You know, it's interesting that I've often thought about this, like on sports teams, they always have a most valuable player. But you know, really, the most valuable player has supporters that have made him look pretty good. And I've had a lot of people that made me look good over the years. I've had some fabulous teachers on my teaching staffs who did such a wonderful job day to day, and I was smart enough to leave them alone and let them do their work.
Amen.
And they were just super people. The people who served on city council with me, wonderful people, dedicated people. And it really bothers me when I see politicians at all levels, people criticizing them and thinking they're all crooked and so on. Well, I can tell you from my experience, I didn't see that. And I saw people that were dedicated, hardworking, and good people. To the people in the board office that supported me, I had many people there, that all the superintendents I worked with through the years, who always gave us backing. And I think that's so important for staff, that they have some backing from the principal in the school right up to the superintendent. And I always felt I had that. To all you people that served on boards with me through the years, again, you made me look good. I had a lot of dedicated volunteers through the years. And I know many of you in this room are serving or have served on boards in the city, and put in a lot of time, probably a lot more than I have, and have done splendid work. Perhaps the most important person is my wife. Sylvia, I always had an admiration for her in many ways. Obviously, I loved her very much, but she stayed home in all the years that I was running the roads. And we had 3 young boys, and they were active. And she was willing to put off her career and stay home and work with the kids. And I never had to worry when I was out at a meeting anywhere that something was going to happen at home that was not desirable. So, and then my 3 boys that you've all seen sitting around the table up here tonight, I'm very proud of them, and they all married wonderful girls, and they've presented me with 10 grandchildren. And any of you who know me know that I just adore kids. So when I have my 10 grandchildren around, I'm never any happier than that. I was very lucky, I guess. I was brought up in a family with real good parents. I was very fortunate indeed. My mom and dad were great people, and my mother was the best mother one could ever have, and my dad was the same, and we were brought up with music in the family and all the things that I think are important in your long-term part of your life. We all have mentors along the way, and I'm sure many of you are mentoring somebody in some way. And I was so lucky along the way to have a mentor in the different things I was interested in. Coin collecting, which has turned out to be a lifelong hobby for me, as you know, and I've gotten very involved in the coin hobby over the years. But you know, that all started by one man on Highfield Extension Street by the name of Clarence Nickerson. I doubt whether there'd be very many people in this room who know Clarence Nickerson. He was the manager of Northern Electric here in Moncton. And he had the first television on the street. And every Sunday night, he would invite Rob and me down to see Our Miss Brooks, Dragnet, and some of those old programs. And between the programs, on the commercials and the breaks, we would go to his den, and he would show us his stamp and coin collections. And I remember that first Christmas he gave me a couple of coin folders, and that's how it all started. And just a small thing, but such an important thing. If he only knew where that, he died many, many years ago, if he only knew where that took me through these years. Gardening, another love of mine. And my gardening all started with Dr. Joe Dobson. Some of you know Vic McLaughlin. Well, Joe Dobson was Vic's father-in-law. And Joe was the gardener of all gardeners. He was just a farmer. And we happened to buy the property that Joe Dobson owned. And I remember talking to Bob McQuaid, whom some of you know. And Bob had first option on that property in Shediac. He called me up one night and he said, Jeff, he said, Vic is going to sell that cottage and land. Are you interested? I said, I would give my eye teeth to have that place. He said, well, that place needs a gardener. And he said, I'm telling him I'm refusing it and you go after it. And that's how that all started. We bought that back in 1973, and it's been just a great place for the kids, and it's still a great place for the kids. Music, I can't thank Ernie Freeborn enough. Malcolm's father in high school taught me how to play the string bass and taught me how to play the tuba and sousaphone. And I had more fun, and of course I got some credits out of it too. But we had a ball. Ernest had the knack that he could take a band or a glee club and we could be pretty serious, but we had a lot of fun being serious. And I don't know how I would ever thank him enough. He instilled in me a love of music that I still love just as much as I ever did. And finally, in education, I was just thrilled to see you here tonight, Midge.
She had to leave.
She had to leave. Well, Arnold McLeod's wife was here earlier. And Arnold took a chance on me back in 1966. And it was a gamble. I mean, to hire somebody out of university to go in as a principal was a real risk. But there was more to it than that, because Arnold had been a playground supervisor in Moncton during the summers. And I used to be a supervisor in the playground. So he saw me for 2 or 3 years before I ever got hired on as a teacher. And he must have seen that he thought that I could do the job, I guess. And anyway, I can't thank Arnold enough. And of course, as I told you earlier, I had a lot of support from staff in the office. My love of history really began in college. And I don't think I had much of a love for history up until about university. And I had a professor at UNB by the name of Alfred Goldsworthy Bailey. Brilliant man, brilliant man. I loved him for many ways. He come into class, and he was getting up there in years. He probably in his 60s, late 60s at that stage, and he was the neatest dresser. He always had a crisp white shirt, nice tie, beautiful suit coat and pants. The pants you could cut it with just like a knife. And he was the first man I ever saw who wore loafers every day. And he was cool. And he would present the most interesting Canadian history lessons day in and day out. He would come in today, not a note in hand, and he would talk about some aspect of Canadian history, and then the next time he came in, he would start with the sentence that he left off with the day before. I mean, he was just amazing. Never a note in his hand. And it was the greatest place to take notes because, I mean, it just flowed. Just a perfect flow to it. And I used to see him in the library, and I would talk to him in the library, and he'd be there doing research, and he was just a wonderful man. And then when I got through university, I met a man in Moncton here that just opened my eyes to history like no one else had ever had. And Joan, where are you, Joan Maybe? Is Joan still here? Joan Maybe was here earlier. Her husband, Ray Maybe, was just a wonderful man to me. He took me under his wing. He was so creative, and we spent hours upon hours in the evenings together with Joan's coffee and ginger snaps. And we would never end. We'd always have something to talk about that was different every night. We never got bored. And he would get into the oddest places and pick out the oddest things and bring them home and say, Geoff, come on over to the house, I got something to show you. And we spent a lot of times together. I remember the time we went down to St. Martin's. I found this token, and it was good at Skillen's store in St. Martin's, and it had good for 5 cents on the back of it. And of course, when you're in the coin collecting business, you want to know, well, did they also put up 10-cent pieces and 25-cent pieces? Because that was quite common in those days. And so I asked around, nobody seemed to know anything about this Skillen store. And then I stopped one old fellow, and he said, "Oh, Miss Skillen up there in the hill, she may know about that store." So we walked up this big hill, knocked on this old door, and this old lady, she must have been in her 90s, came to the door, deaf as a doornail. And I showed her, I said, "Miss Skillen," I said, "have you ever seen this token before?" And I showed her the 5-cent token good for at the Skillen store. Oh, she went on, she was telling me all about running to the store as a kid, buying that 5 cents loaf of bread, and losing it one time on her way to the store. And she went on and on and on and on and on. So, of course, I was interested, did they have 10 cent, 25, so on. So I said to her, "Did they have other denominations of these tokens?" She says, "Presbyterian, of course." Anyway, I had a lot of fun with Ray and a lot of good memories. Now let me see if there's anything else here I wanted to say. I guess I just wanted to express my thanks to everybody. Thank you, friends, for coming and making this a wonderful evening for me. I really feel you were all part of my having fun and success. And so I thank each and every one of you for coming, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much, Geoff. I think the interesting thing all tonight is we've all known a number of people here, a little part of Geoff's life. But when you put it all together and look at all the things he's done, it's actually quite phenomenal. And it's a tribute to Geoff but a tribute to the Museum Society that they've taken this opportunity to recognize one more major contributor to our community, and that's Geoff Bell. So congratulations, Geoff.